Some children don't lose their childhood in one dramatic moment. There isn't always a single event. No loud turning point, no announcement that says, "You're the adult now." It happens quietly. One day, they just realize that someone has to hold everything together, and somehow, that someone becomes them. This is the hidden psychology of children who grew up too fast. Not the ones who looked strong, the ones who had to become strong. Let's start with something psychologists call parentification. It sounds clinical, but the experience is deeply personal. Parentification happens when a child begins carrying emotional or practical responsibilities that belong to adults. Maybe they comforted a struggling parent. Maybe they mediated family conflict. Maybe they took care of siblings while managing their own fears silently. They learned how to stay calm, how to fix problems, how to be mature, but in the process, they also learned something else. Their feelings could wait. Their needs were negotiable. Other people's needs were urgent. They weren't born responsible. They adapted into it, and adaptation is powerful, but it comes at a cost. The second layer is early independence. When a child grows up without consistent emotional safety, the brain makes a decision. If support isn't reliable, I won't depend on it. So they stop asking for help. They stop expecting comfort. They stop reaching outward. On the outside, this looks impressive. They seem composed, self-sufficient, strong beyond their years, but internally there's often a quiet tension. Because when you teach yourself not to rely on anyone, you also teach yourself that support is temporary. As adults, they may struggle to trust kindness, not because they don't want it, but because they learned early that it could disappear. So they prepare to stand alone, even when they don't have to anymore. Then comes something psychologists describe as uneven development. When emotional growth is rushed, some parts of the personality mature too quickly, while other parts don't get time to develop at all. These individuals may sound wise. They may give incredible advice. They may be the stable one in every room. But privately, they can feel emotionally confused, unmet, guilty for wanting reassurance. They learned how to be needed. They didn't always learn how to safely need others. There's a difference, and that difference follows them quietly into adulthood. Another hidden trait? Discomfort with rest. For many children who grew up too fast, calm moments were never truly safe. Sometimes silence meant tension. Sometimes peace meant something bad was about to happen. Sometimes relaxation wasn't allowed at all. So the nervous system adapts. It stays alert. It stays ready. It stays useful. As adults, they may feel uneasy doing nothing. They feel productive only when they're solving something, helping someone, carrying something. Rest can feel unfamiliar, almost suspicious. This isn't laziness. It isn't ambition either. It's a nervous system that learned early, if I'm not useful, I'm vulnerable. And that belief runs deep. There's also something rarely talked about: guilt around receiving care. Research shows that when children carry responsibility too early, they can internalize a silent rule. If someone is taking care of me, I must be burdening them. So they minimize their needs. They apologize for asking. They hesitate before leaning on others. They downplay their own exhaustion. Even love can feel uncomfortable, because receiving care wasn't the norm. Giving care was. So when someone offers support now, it can feel unfamiliar, even overwhelming. Not because they don't deserve it, but because they never practiced accepting it. One of the most striking traits of children who grew up too fast is heightened emotional awareness. They read the room quickly. They sense subtle mood changes. They anticipate conflict before it escalates. This isn't magic. It's survival. When you grow up needing to monitor emotional shifts for safety, your brain becomes incredibly skilled at it. They often become deeply empathetic adults, protective, observant, intuitive. But here's the quiet truth. Empathy, without boundaries, can be exhausting. So many of them develop guarded empathy. They care deeply, but they don't always let people see how deeply. They learned that caring without protection can cost too much, so they balance compassion with caution. Now here's the important part. Psychology does not label these individuals as damaged. It describes them as adapted. Their nervous system adjusted early to pressure. Their mind developed strength before it developed softness. They learned responsibility before they learned safety, independence before reassurance, composure before comfort. And while those traits help them survive, they are not the only way they're allowed to exist. Healing for someone who grew up too fast doesn't mean becoming fragile. It means learning that rest is no longer dangerous, that support doesn't equal weakness, that needing someone doesn't make you a burden. It means allowing the parts of you that never got to be young to finally breathe. If this resonates with you, there's something important to understand. Growing up too fast often creates adults who look incredibly capable. They handle crises well. They show up when others fall apart. They carry weight without complaint. But sometimes, no one asks who carries them. And they may not know how to answer that question, because they were never taught that someone could. If you grew up responsible for more than a child ever should have carried, your strength makes sense. Your independence makes sense. Your alertness makes sense. Even your exhaustion makes sense. Nothing about you is random. Your patterns were learned. And what is learned can also be softened. So here's the question. Did you become strong because you wanted to, or because you had to? And are you still carrying a weight that no longer belongs to you? Understanding the hidden psychology behind growing up too fast isn't about blaming the past. It's about recognizing how early pressure shaped you and giving yourself permission to grow differently now. Because strength is admirable, but so is softness. And maybe, just maybe, you're finally allowed to experience both. If this spoke to something inside you, subscribe to the channel. We explore the deeper patterns behind human behavior, the ones most people overlook. And if you've been strong for a long time, remember, you don't have to earn rest anymore. You're allowed to have it.